And I was very fortunate. Arthur Rubenfeld, who's still a dear friend to today, and I love him so much, and he really recognized something in me, and he pulled me out of that cherished job that I was in. And he allowed me to be a special projects manager. And I really was working directly for him. And so, as you mentioned early on, I was part of building a project which was a complete sideways direction for Starbucks. Again, at a time when, in the history of coffee, specialty coffee, there's a moment in the late 80s and 90s when young entrepreneurs, particularly in the Bay Area, San Francisco, began to see a niche. They were coffee lovers too. So, there's millions of coffee lovers. Many of your listeners, of course, are coffee lovers. But these young entrepreneurs saw a niche where they could step in where Starbucks maybe wasn't playing as much anymore. And they started to do what I'll call for today a craft coffee experience, which Starbucks had kind of walked away from in a way. And so they began these shops. And when Howard and Arthur saw that happening, they visited a shop in London called Monmouth. If anyone's ever been to London and you go to, they have lovely coffee even to today. But Monmouth was the model. And Howard and Arthur came back with tons of pictures of Monmouth. And one day I got invited into this small room on the 9th floor. You were probably in that room on many occasions. And it was all pictures on the wall. And Howard and Arthur said, "We're going to do this." And I looked at it and I said, "You're going to do what?" And they said, we're going to build this. And I said, well, what I'm looking at looks like what we were in the 1970s in many ways. And I knew what it was. I knew it was a cafe. I didn't know exactly London, but I knew what it was. And I said, "What do you mean you're going to build this?" And they explained that what was happening. They were not unaware, of course. And the next thing I knew, I was building this project with me and Arthur and a designer, Liz Mueller, who you knew well as well. Mm-hmm. And we built the project. And long story short, that project leads to the roasteries and Reserve. And so it was probably the high point in my career at Starbucks to be given that opportunity and then to build it successfully. And then when that was done, the company, they moved on and built it way bigger than what I was doing. And so then I had an opportunity, as you know, I finished my time working for John Culver and supporting the growth in Asia. And my last couple of years at Starbucks, I spent most of the year in Asia, helping to open stores there, helping to build teams, helping to educate, because I was still and have always been an educator.